Imagine a little girl in a small, forgotten village, walking barefoot to school along a dusty road. Her clothes are worn, her books are tattered, but her eyes shine with a dream so big it feels impossible. Sarah, born into poverty, dared to dream of becoming a doctor, a goal that seemed unreachable in a world where survival itself was a daily struggle. Yet against all odds, Sarah's unwavering determination and the kindness of those around her set her on a journey that would change her life forever. How did she defy the impossible? This is her story. In a quiet village surrounded by lush green fields and tall, whispering trees, life was simple yet full of challenges. The people worked hard from sunrise to sunset, but many still struggled to make ends meet. Among them was a little girl named Sarah, a curious and bright child who lived with her family in a small rundown house at the edge of the village. Her father was a farmer who toiled in the fields every day, and her mother sold vegetables in the market to help put food on the table. Sarah often helped her mother after school, carrying baskets of fresh produce through the bustling village square. Despite their struggles, Sarah's heart carried a dream so big that it seemed impossible. "One day I will become a doctor," she told her father as they sat under the stars one evening. Her father looked at her with a mix of pride and worry. "Sarah," he said softly, "becoming a doctor is not easy. We don't have the money for such a thing." But Sarah's determination was as strong as the village's ancient oak tree. "I will find a way," she replied with a confident smile. Every morning, Sarah walked for an hour along a dusty road to reach her school. Her feet, bare and calloused, stepped carefully around rocks and puddles, but she never complained. The road might have been hard, but her spirit was unwavering. At school, her favorite place was the small classroom where her teacher, Miss Lila, taught with kindness and patience. Miss Lila noticed Sarah's bright eyes and relentless curiosity. "Sarah," she said one day, "you can achieve great things if you work hard and believe in yourself." These words stayed with Sarah, like a spark that refused to dim. At home, Sarah's nights were often spent hunched over a tattered notebook under the glow of a flickering lamp. She would read and reread every page, dreaming of a future where she could help people like the kind doctor who once saved her little brother. Her family couldn't afford new books or fancy supplies, but Sarah didn't let that stop her. She borrowed books from friends, wrote notes on scrap paper, and practiced her lessons again and again. Every word she read, every problem she solved, felt like a step closer to her dream. Her journey was just beginning, but even then Sarah knew one thing for certain. No matter how hard the path might be, she was willing to walk it with all her heart. Sarah's days at school were both exciting and challenging. The small classroom was filled with eager voices, and the scent of chalk filled the air as Miss Lila explained lessons with enthusiasm. But for Sarah, every day brought its own struggles. Her bag was old, her books were torn, and she often shared pencils with her classmates. Despite this, she greeted every day with a bright smile and an eagerness to learn. One afternoon, while staying after class to finish her homework, Miss Lila noticed Sarah's small notebook, its pages nearly falling apart. "Sarah, why don't you use a newer notebook?" Miss Lila asked gently. Sarah hesitated, her cheeks flushing. "We don't have enough money for new ones, miss," she said softly. Miss Lila's heart ached for her determined student. The very next day she brought Sarah a bag with a few new notebooks, pencils, and an eraser. "These are for you, Sarah. Keep working hard," she said with a kind smile. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, Miss Lila. I promise I won't let you down." At home life was no easier. Her mother often worried aloud about the expenses of daily life. Sarah's father returned from the fields each day with a tired smile, his hands rough from the hard work. Yet even amidst the struggles there were moments of warmth. One evening, as Sarah sat under the dim light of their lamp, her father walked in and noticed her studying. "You work so hard, Sarah," he said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "One day you'll make us all proud." In school, Sarah's best friend Amina often helped her. Amina was a cheerful and supportive girl who had recently joined the class. The two quickly bonded over their love for learning. One day, seeing Sarah's worn-out books, Amina surprised her with a small bag of colorful markers and a few sheets of paper. "Now you can make your notes even better," Amina said with a grin. Sarah hugged her friend tightly. "Thank you, Amina. You're the best." Sarah's hard work soon began to show results. She excelled in her studies, earning praise from her teachers. But her biggest challenge came when Miss Lila announced a science competition in the city. The winner would receive a scholarship, a chance to attend a better school. Sarah's heart raced as she thought about it. "This could be my chance," she told Amina that afternoon. "But how will I make a project? I don't have the materials." Amina, ever resourceful, replied, "We'll find a way together." The two friends spent every spare moment working on Sarah's project. They used old cardboard, borrowed markers, and their creativity to create a poster about clean water and its importance for health. When the competition day arrived, Sarah felt nervous. She stood before the judges and explained her project, her voice trembling but determined. After what felt like hours of waiting, the results were announced. "The scholarship goes to Sarah," the judge declared. Tears streamed down her face as she heard her name. She had done it. She had taken the first big step toward her dream. That evening, her family hugged her tightly, their pride shining brighter than any words could express. Her father's voice trembled as he said, "Sarah, you've made us believe anything is possible." With the scholarship secured, Sarah's life began to change. She was now able to attend a better school in the nearby town. On her first day, she was both excited and nervous. The school was much bigger, with bright classrooms and well-dressed students. Sarah's old uniform and simple school bag stood out, and she noticed a few curious glances. But she reminded herself why she was there. "I'm here to learn, not to worry about what others think," she whispered to herself as she stepped into the classroom. The lessons were harder and the competition among students was fierce. At first, Sarah struggled to keep up. One evening, after a particularly difficult math class, she sat at her desk, staring at her book with tears in her eyes. Maybe I don't belong here, she thought. Just then she heard her mother's voice from the kitchen. "Sarah, dinner is ready," her mother called. When Sarah didn't respond, her mother came in and saw her daughter's tear-streaked face. "What's wrong, my child?" she asked gently. Sarah explained her struggles, and her mother sat beside her, holding her hand. "You've come this far, Sarah. You can't give up now. Remember, hard times don't last forever, but strong people do." Encouraged by her mother's words, Sarah decided to push harder. She started staying after class to ask her teachers for help, and she formed a study group with a few kind classmates, including a girl named Layla. "We're in this together," Layla said with a smile as they worked on science problems one afternoon. Sarah was grateful for her new friends, who made her feel less alone in the big, unfamiliar school. One day the school announced another scholarship opportunity, this time for high school. To qualify, students needed to achieve top marks in their exams. Sarah knew this was her chance to move even closer to her dream, but the pressure was immense. She spent her days in the library reading textbooks and solving practice problems late into the night. Her sister Amina often joined her, quietly encouraging her with small gestures like bringing her snacks or helping her organize her notes. As the exam day approached, Sarah's nerves grew. "What if I fail?" she thought. Amina noticed her anxiety and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Sarah, you've worked so hard. Believe in yourself. No matter what happens, we are proud of you." On the day of the exam, Sarah walked into the classroom with her head held high. She answered each question carefully, her mind focused on everything she had learned. When the results were announced a week later, Sarah's heart pounded as the principal called out, "The highest score goes to Sarah." The room erupted in applause, but Sarah could barely hear it over the sound of her own heartbeat. She had done it again. Back at home, her family celebrated with a simple but joyous meal. Her father, his eyes misty with pride, said, "You're showing the world what determination looks like, Sarah." As Sarah prepared to move to high school, she couldn't help but reflect on how far she had come. Each challenge she faced had taught her something valuable, and every victory, big or small, brought her closer to her ultimate goal. She knew the road ahead would still be long and difficult, but she was ready to face whatever came next. After all, she wasn't just chasing her dream. She was proving to herself and everyone around her that dreams, no matter how big, are worth fighting for. High school was a new and exciting chapter in Sarah's life. The campus was much larger than her previous schools, with laboratories, libraries, and teachers who encouraged students to think beyond textbooks. For Sarah, it was an opportunity to immerse herself in her favorite subject, science. However, the challenges were greater too. Many of her classmates came from wealthier families and had access to resources she could only dream of. Sarah's uniform was old, her books secondhand, and her school bag still the same one her sister had bought her years ago. Despite the differences, Sarah kept her focus. She spent hours in the library, studying every topic her teachers introduced. One day her science teacher announced a project: build a model of the human body and explain how it works. Sarah's excitement turned to worry. She had no money to buy the materials she needed. But her friend Layla offered to help. "We can use recycled materials," Layla suggested. Together they collected old boxes, newspapers, and glue. After weeks of hard work, Sarah's model was ready. When she presented it, her teacher smiled and said, "This is the most detailed and creative project I've seen." "Excellent work, Sarah." As she excelled academically, Sarah's dream of becoming a doctor grew stronger. She often thought about her village and the people who struggled to get proper medical care. "One day I'll return and help them," she promised herself. But the path ahead was still uncertain. College would require more money than her family could afford. Sarah knew she needed another scholarship. Her chance came when the school announced a competitive examination for a prestigious college scholarship. The pressure was immense. Day and night Sarah prepared. She studied under the dim light of her lamp, her sister Amina always nearby, offering silent support. "You've done this before, Sarah," Amina said one evening. "You'll do it again." The day of the scholarship exam arrived. Sarah entered the exam hall, her hands trembling but her heart resolute. She answered each question with care, drawing on everything she had learned. Weeks later, the results were announced. When the principal called her name as the scholarship winner, Sarah could hardly believe it. Tears streamed down her face as her classmates and teachers cheered. At home, her family celebrated with hugs and laughter. Amina, who had sacrificed so much for Sarah's education, said, "This is just the beginning. Keep going." College life brought new challenges and opportunities. Sarah worked harder than ever, balancing her studies with a part-time job in the library to cover her expenses. She befriended other aspiring doctors, forming a close-knit group that supported one another through late-night study sessions and long lectures. Her professors noticed her dedication and often encouraged her. "You have a bright future ahead, Sarah," one of them told her after a particularly challenging exam. After years of hard work, the day Sarah had dreamed of finally arrived. She graduated as a doctor. The moment she held her certificate in her hands, she felt an overwhelming sense of pride and gratitude. She thought of her family, her friends, and her teachers, everyone who had believed in her and supported her along the way. Returning to her village as Dr. Sarah was the most emotional moment of her life. The entire community came to greet her, their faces lit with pride and joy. Sarah hugged Amina tightly and said, "We did it. Our dream came true." Using her savings and a small grant, she opened a clinic in the village. It wasn't big, but it was enough to provide much-needed care to the people she had always wanted to help. Every morning as Sarah walked to her clinic, she thought about her journey. The struggles, the sacrifices, the sleepless nights. It had all been worth it. Her story became an inspiration to the children in her village, proving that no matter where you come from, dreams can come true with hard work, determination, and the support of those who believe in you.